Okay, apparently we're live on YouTube, and maybe this time people can hear, which is very exciting. And also, even much more exciting is that Reese is back. Reese is here, Man United fan. Reese, the last time we spoke was before the pre-season game when I
That's
was
right.
full of confidence and you were full of trepidation, and you ended up hammering us 4-0 or whatever it was, right?
That's
And
right.
and I I can I don't know. In terms of my confidence, I'm still confident, but I'm a lot less confident now that Thiago is out, especially along with seven other injuries or whatever we've got. We've got tons of injuries, but
hmm
Thiago's the big one. So I'm definitely not as confident. But you must be. I don't know. Is it a surprise to you how bad you've been?
I won't lie to you. I am very worried about going into this game. I thought like the first two games of the season, I thought we would have seen something like a good start. Like I know preseason, I know preseason means nothing, but we were playing really well. We were playing some really good football, and then all of a sudden Martial gets injured, Sancho goes out of form. Ronaldo's saga builds up, and it's to the point where it's dominating United, not the manager and all that, and it's creeped in. There's other things behind the scenes, like the ownership situations finally come to light. Other media are finally realizing that actually maybe Man United fans weren't being so crazy all along. Like there are so many problems, and we're so abject in the transfer market. We've only just made four signings. Eric Bailly's now went to Olympique Lyonnais on loan with an option to buy. That's been confirmed this morning. But in terms of the league, I thought we would do a little bit better in terms of the football. We've looked very abject. We've looked very weak, and we haven't done enough. Certain players are still falling into old habits, and I know you guys haven't had a great start to the season. I mean, 2 points from a possible six. But I spoke to Doug the other day, and I just think Liverpool's problem is, a bar the injuries, is you've looked a little naive in front of goal. Like in certain situations, like certain players who you would think would bury their chances have looked very naive. We, on the other hand, have not done anything in front of goal. We can't even build up the play. And if we don't score against if we don't score against Liverpool, our goal of the month is obviously McAllister's own goal. That was absolutely funny against Brighton. So I think that's a telling story of just how worried I am. But I'm not sure if we get beat against Liverpool, but I think the best possible case scenario we get is a draw. But I wouldn't lie, like I am worried going into Monday night. I won't lie.
I mean, you got problems that have been going on for a while. A stat we were talking about before on our other preview show was one from Google. Let me just bring it up again. But basically, um, you've only had, I think your Liverpool are unbeaten in something like 12 Premier League games, which I was surprised about against Man United. Let me just
Yeah,
find it. Yeah, there you go. Manchester United, sorry. Manchester United have won just one of their last 12 Premier League games against Liverpool, drawing six, losing five, and are winless in eight since a 2-1 win in March 2018. The Red Devils last had a longer winless league run against an opponent between 1983 and 1987, which was 10 league games without a win against Everton.
that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
and so it's not as if it's a new thing that United have been struggling. We've scored 13 goals against you in three matches. I mean, obviously you scored four against us in the friendly, but there's like your defence, for example, right? Harry Maguire, Lautaro Martinez now, um, and Luke Shaw and Diogo Dallo was your back four in the last
It
game.
was. It was. Yeah.
Like I would swap at least three of those four. I would want to get rid of them. Are you at the point where you just want to get rid of a ton of players, especially defenders, or do you still have hope for these
Like
guys?
personally, I would start Malacia at left back. I
Mm-hmm.
think right. I would
Mm-hmm.
give him that chance because he was excellent against Liverpool in the pre-season friendly. I would play Malacia personally. Um, I don't trust either of our right backs, Dallo or Wan-Bissaka. Both of them are not good enough. I'd rather we sold both and got two new right backs in. But at the minute, I would play Wan-Bissaka because he gives us some defensive capability. But he hasn't played any preseason matches, so he's had very little time. And I would play Varane at right sided centre back beside Lautaro Martinez. I think Maguire, for all that he brings, it's still not enough. Like, yeah, he's a good carrier of the ball and all that. Yeah, no problem with that. But up against a Liverpool team where you need to catch them with pace, you need to get stuck into them. Varane will do that. He has both qualities. Maguire doesn't have the pace factor, whereas Martinez does it. Be covering him. I don't want my defence to cover each other. I want my defence to be in sync where they can push up high and then link up with the midfield and the attack really well and cause problems. Without having that abundantly clear, we are in trouble. And I would also look at massively as goalkeeper. Like, that's another thing for me as goalkeeper. I've got all the love and respect for David De Gea, but it's clear and simple. The goals against Brentford were purely down to him. Bar the Eriksen back heel, it's still his decision to pass the ball to Eriksen. It's the same situation over and over. I say only one player in that defence needs change. It needs to stay, and that's Martinez. I would change 4 personally.
That's a very interesting point because David De Gea, right? I mean, Ten Hag apparently has said that he's not going to change his tactics. He's not going to change his philosophy. I don't know if that's true, but compared to the Brentford game, I mean, Eriksen's rightly getting a lot of pelters, as they say, for not being able to keep the ball enough. But I think part of the problem was that David De Gea was giving it to him in dangerous situations as well.
I agree.
As per Ten Hag's tactics, and David De Gea with the ball at his feet has never been comfortable. Is it a problem for you that Ten Hag? I mean, until January. I mean, unless something happens in the next 11 days at the end of this transfer window, then you'll be stuck with De Gea until at least January. With Ten Hag, at some point, will he have to start compromising and have to say to De Gea, you can whack it forward if you can't see the pass, or if you're not confident in the pass, just whack it? Or, is it that David De Gea is just going to have to learn really quickly to adapt to Ten Hag's tactics? I mean, what do you reckon?
I'd be very surprised if Ten Hag compromises his style of play and his philosophy for the sake of one player. I'd be very surprised. I mean, you don't see in the respect of it, you wouldn't see Luis Enrique doing it for his Barcelona team or the Spanish team. You wouldn't see Hansi Flick compromising if Neuer wasn't available for Germany or Bayern Munich when he managed them. He wouldn't compromise if it was Ter Stegen in goal. It'd be the same manner. You wouldn't see Klopp in a way making compromises for Alisson if Van Dijk wasn't playing at centre half, or if it was, I suppose, Kelleher or Adriana in goal. It would be the same way. And same with Pep Guardiola. If Ederson's not playing and it's bizarre, for some crazy reason, it's Ortega starting if he has to swap it, or he's playing Scott Carson, it'll be the same way. I hope to God that he doesn't sacrifice his principles because of a goalkeeper. I hope he continues to do it. And if De Gea doesn't want to adapt, if he doesn't try to adapt, then I would play Tom Heaton over him. Like, at the minute, I would. I think there's so many opportunities for goalkeepers. Like, United could send a goalkeeper if they wanted to. I just don't know if they really aim to. But I personally wouldn't sacrifice what I want to do with my team because of one player. I would try and do things differently. I've suggested it for a while, but I don't think Man United have ever listened. If De Gea wants to get better with his feet, then make De Gea play with midfielders like Eriksen. Like, constantly pass the ball to them. Like, see how he is at handling, timing. Like, if they pass the ball straight at him, or he hands it to the angles on the right or the left, see how he responds by trying to get his foot in a position where he controls it. If he can't do it, then that should be another telling point where he's just never going to adapt. And he doesn't even come forward off his line, which is another issue. Like, he doesn't claim balls, which Ederson and Alisson do extremely well. Even if he's not good with his feet, if he was to come forward off his line a bit more, I think United fans would be less aggressive towards him in terms of like wanting him out. I think it would be a little less if he came off his line a bit more, tried to make himself more of a presence, because that's what Henderson does really well. It's what other top goalkeepers do, is like they will come forward and they're not afraid to come forward, even if it's the risk of a class player chipping them, like obviously Salah did against Salah famously did against Ederson in a game against you guys. He came so far off his line, confident he could beat the ball from Salah. Salah dribbled it really well and just chipped him. If you have that confidence in your ability, even if you're not going to get the ball 99% of the time or etc., at least do it. I would rather De Gea came at the ball rather than cowered from it, because he is a good goalkeeper. He's not coming into the modern era of goalkeeping, which is going to pass him by, sadly. It's like, in the nicest way, it's like if you're an Arsenal fan and it's 2002, David Seaman's still in goal, the man can still pull off a very good save, like he did in the FA Cup final, for example, that brilliant save he did, but then he gets exposed because he doesn't carry the ball, and then you see the difference when Jens Lehmann came into Arsenal. Jens Lehmann, like an absolute hurricane, would just run at he would just run at strikers, try to force them off the ball, and you've got it now in the modern era where like Neuer's got it, Mainan for Milan's got it. You've got Keylor Navas for PSG, although he's on the go, who'd be a fantastic signing for Man United, in my opinion. Courtois does it. Oblak, like, and obviously the two figureheads of Liverpool and Man City I've already mentioned, like, these goalkeepers will run at you because they know they don't have to pass the ball because they're brilliant passers. But if they can come at the striker and force a mistake, it gives centre backs time to get in a good position where they can just retrieve it and pick up and bomb forward. That's what I would like from De Gea, personally, but I don't think he ever will. I think we really need to get a new goalkeeper in.
I would put him, you might not like me for saying this, on the same level as Joe Hart now. He's been a lot better than Joe Hart in his career, but now he's sort of like almost like a prime Joe Hart, because he's still a good shot stopper, David De Gea, but with his feet he's no good. And, you know, the question is, when Guardiola came to Man City, the first thing he did was get rid of Joe Hart. And you would think that Ten Hag would need to do something so that De Gea would adapt. He could just go somewhere else. But the problem with that, compared to Joe Hart, who left Man City to go to Burnley, if you remember, in 2018, is that David De Gea's got this huge contract. And it brings me on to the next topic that I want to talk about, is the mismanagement that's been going on for so many years at Manchester United. I don't agree with what Gary Neville said, that the owners haven't, like they're supposed to plough in their own money to, add a loss to themselves in order to stay competitive in the Premier League, like lots of owners have done, the sugar daddy owners have done. Liverpool have lived within our means, and we've got to where we are currently, which is like a really, really competitive team. Without the riches of Man City, because they've spent over $1 billion, the Glazers, haven't they? But that's not the issue. I understand the leveraged buyout is the issue.
Absolutely.
And they, I think it should be a criminal act, and to borrow money from the bank to buy an institution like Manchester United. I mean, it's really shocking how that was allowed to happen. But the protest and the things, what's been going on from Man United supporters' point of view, from your personal point of view, and from what you've read and seen, like what's going to happen with this big protest?
Well, I'm not sure if I don't think the whole concept of Old Trafford being empty like the Mestalla or the San Siro is going to happen, but I do think fans will continue to protest outside the grounds, like as they've done. It's very more head on, like you see protests every single home game now, and rightly so. We're not trying to completely destroy sponsors, but we are trying to get sponsors' attentions by telling them like we don't want them associated with the club when we've got the Glazer ownership, because it's giving them what they want. It's giving them more money to then take out, millions in dividends. Like, if the Glazers hadn't actually used the leverage buyout and bought the club with their own money, and they'd actually just, instead of taking out dividends, just let the club's resources grow, but just add a little bit of money here and there in terms of like infrastructure and let the club use what it means, like, because we would generate so much money. That's what we spend our transfers on, like, it's our generated money. I've got no problem with that. My problem is the amount of money they constantly take out year on year that bleeds our assets dry, where we don't have the resources. I mean, like, we've lost 300 million in 3 years, and it's questionable, like, how much money we're actually got available, and that's what struck me with recent deals, like the amount of money we're actually willing to spend. So I don't disagree with people that we spend. I will never disagree with people that Man United do spend, but I think people don't realise how, whereas yourself, because obviously you're well aware of this, is we're not just spending money, we're spending it badly, but it's also been like, it's whatever we spend will then lead to shirt sales, which then the Glazers will then take out in dividends. They are constantly taking out of the club, which they shouldn't do in the first place, whether they own the club or not. Even a time situation like this, where the asset is bleeding dry, you shouldn't still be draining your asset just to pump up your own fortune to feed into other areas you own, like an Indian cricket team or an American football team. You shouldn't be bleeding your asset dry just to pump that in. Like, that's the issue I've got with the Glazers in that sense, and that's why I would like an owner who just comes in, who will put the money that's been taken out back into the club to let the asset continue to grow as it should, and then still spend money what we generate. I'd be all right spending if we generate £700 million a year and we spend that on transfers, I'd be okay with that. I don't think the fans would be an issue with that either, because the owner would just spend on the infrastructure. They'd spend on redeveloping the stadium, the training ground, which is at the minute obsolete. Improving those facilities, we could happily spend our generated revenue on transfers. I don't think any Man United fan would have a problem with that. I don't think any of them generally would. I know I wouldn't. I'd rather the owner just pump the money into infrastructure and the behind the scenes, and just give the manager confidence that he's like, the owner's there if they need it, and also who's behind them in terms of behind the scenes, like management level above them, are actually competent people in charge. So that's what the fans are trying to do in that sense. And even myself, like the social media presences, we are trying to get them out, like, one way or another. We don't want to attack sponsors physically. We're attacking them through reviews and in that manner. We're bringing it down as much as we can to get their attention. And obviously the protests are getting the media attention, because obviously they can't stop talking about it on Sky Sports News, etc., or even Sky Sports for a football game. I can't remember our last football game where they haven't mentioned Manchester United's ownership, or Manchester United fans are protesting X, Y, Z. You know what I mean? Like, it's in the media now, and they've realised just what's going on. So, like what I said before, I will never argue that we don't spend money. We do, but we're not even in the top 10 of like owners that have actually contributed to money towards the club. We're not even in the top 10, not even the top 20. They don't use their own money. They're just bleeding it to fill up their own fortunes, which is wrong. It's just wrong. I agree. It's what you said. It's criminal. You shouldn't be allowed to buy a football club on a leveraged buyout. Never.
That's very true. But looking at the mismanagement in terms of a structure, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if they put a better structure in place, then the results would improve and people would be a lot happier. Because the results have been so bad, partly because of the. I mean, it's madness. There's a guy on called @TVTrevStats, Trevor Simmons on Twitter. Mm-hmm. And I just took a screenshot of one of his Twitter threads, because I found it absolutely mad. We talked about it a little bit on Cop On last week, but I'm going to very quickly give you a list of players all signed for astronomical amounts. At the time, Marcus Rocco, 16 million was a lot of money. Di Maria, 60 million. Memphis Depay, 28 million. Darmian, 13 million. Schneiderlin, 25. Mkhitaryan, 26. Paul Pogba, 93. Lukaku, 90. Matic, 40. Alexis Sanchez, 67 million. Fred, 61 million. Aaron Wan-Bissaka, 50. Maguire, 80. Van de Beek, 39 million. Amad Diallo, 37.2 million. I had no idea until I saw that tweet how expensive he
Yeah.
was. Sancho, 73 million. Varane, 41 million. And Lisandro Martinez is last on the list. Of course, the jury's still out. 56.7 million. The cost of a new hospital, is a stat that I often come back to. A new fully functioning hospital is around about 350 million to build it, and then I think if you get staff and new machines on top of that, it's another about 200 million. It's about that you spent on all of those rubbish players, but like the rot at Manchester United is like caused by the fact that every single player going to Manchester United will expect to be, one, on a huge wage, and two, the clubs, they know it's Manchester United, so they add an extra 20-30 million onto the price of these players. So it's complicated, Reese, but I don't see a way out of this. I don't know if you do, because so many players come to United for inflated prices, so already the pressure's on them to perform. If they don't perform, then they can sit on the bench, get the money, and they don't have to play with heart. They don't particularly care about the club. The fans are pissed off, so they're shouting at the players for not being good enough to justify the price that United have paid. Is there a way out you can see of this? Because I don't know what it is, unless you just let all of these players run out their contract, accept the fact that you might end up, 16th in the league by the time they all leave, and then you build again with people on reasonable wages for reasonable transfers. I don't know the way out. Have you got any ideas? How are you going to get out of this vicious cycle?
I've always thought that even though it will take a slow process, say for example, it's I'll do it in two ways. There's two ways I can think of it. One is the one I'd prefer. So say for example, the Glazers sold up and we got a new owner, and say Jim Ratcliffe came in. I would like it for him if he was to actually scour the top clubs in Europe, not scour them for players, scour them from how they actually run their clubs. So for me, ideally for me, I've always wanted Man United to run like Bayern Munich. Mm-hmm. I think I've always said it, even to you on Doug's channel, I've always said for me the best run club in Europe is Bayern Munich. The way they handle things like Rummenigge, Beckenbauer, Matthias Sammer, the way they run the club, they're Bayern through and through. They understand how the transfer market works. They understand how the club as a history works. And even when Uli Hoeneß was there before he went to jail, very good president for them, but he's aware that what Bayern is. Bayern is about exciting, good football that wins trophies, that has the best players, the best team, but embeds with their culture. And it's the same way they have promoted youth players, same as Man United. We've got the same circumstance. We're not winning anything at the minute, but it's the same manner. Real Madrid, another fantastically run club where it's top players, a top team, win trophies, but it's all about entertaining the fans. Even right now, PSG under Luis Campos as director of football, it's very smart transfers to build into an organised team that's going to benefit Christophe Galtier over the coming years. I would like United to do that. Say for example, that would be my hope if the Glazers sell up and we get an owner and who actually cares about the club. If in the event the Glazers didn't sell, which would be horrible, but if in the event they didn't sell, the one thing I'd like to see is whoever is actually running things right now, like Murtough and Arnold, provided they're still, I wouldn't keep them if Ratcliffe came in, I would get rid of them both. But in the event that they stay in their positions, I would actually like them to challenge clubs. I don't think they've got a backbone. I think they're very weak in the market where they're trying to get the best deals, but then they let other clubs dominate them. And it was the same with Woodward. They just let other clubs walk all over them. If a player's worth 40 million, you pay 40 million. You don't pay 75 million. You don't let another club dominate you in the transfer market. That's why Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea are fantastic at football operation. I even give Daniel Levy credit for Spurs, like with Paratici, like two fantastic operators. They know how much a player's worth. They'll get the player, and then you see the reward. And even in the current situation, I'd like Myrtle and Arnold to actually dominate the negotiations rather than being dominated. But if the Glazers do sell, I'd like more competent people that actually understand a club from within to do it. And it's no coincidence that Rangnick was right all along about surgery and who runs the club, and Van Gaal's constantly mentioned it about who runs the club, like as bankers, not football people. That for me is the most important thing. It's look to the top clubs, look around you, look at how they run things, and the best thing is it's not carbon copy, but follow them all by having proper football people that can dominate the conversation rather than being dominated.
Whoa! Sorry. Struggled to find the unmute button there. Loads of things going on my computer's gone went a bit batshit there, but no, really, really interesting stuff. I think that is a way. I think you're right. If just get the transfer strategy right, you know, you need maybe two or three real hits, world class hits. You know, this nonsense of signing like 30-year-olds, Varane, all that kind of stuff, it's got to stop. You know, at United, you've got to start targeting, you know, the next one. You know, players who are like 23 years old maximum, who haven't made it yet, and they want to prove themselves, and they have a talent, and you should go for like, get a reputation for giving a chance, you know, spending a lot on the young players, and if it doesn't work for a young player, they will still have some resale value further down the line. But it's like,
I agree.
There's just a lack of hunger in the squad. And in the squad, I mean, I've got to mention them. McTominay, Fred.
I have some confidence, at least with Fred, the fact that Casemiro, I know you've mentioned like 30-year-olds, but I think the fact that this is a solid partnership that works well for their country, they've only lost one match together. I think that midfield going forward actually does work. I know obviously Fred's like 29 and Casemiro's 30, but at least for now, until we continue to add younger, better midfield players into the squad, at least we've got two players to sit in. I'm okay with us signing maybe every transfer window. I would like, for example, obviously we're linked with Anthony and Gakpo. They're two talented, young, hungry wingers, hungry players. I would definitely sign them, but I wouldn't mind signing, say, a 28 to 31-year-old where it's experience, like just one. Not overly do it, but like maybe one or two a year that can fit into a position, like if it's a goalkeeper or a midfielder, or even if it's just a striker, you know, as an experienced option. But I wouldn't always sign a player of that bulk. I've got no issue with age, but I wouldn't overly do it. I would have like just one every year. It's good to have one experienced player every year, provided you're providing the bulk of, exactly as you've mentioned, young, hungry players to build a team around. I do agree with you.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, Casemiro, he's a lot better than what you've got. So that would be an upgrade, but you know, for the next year maybe, and then you're stuck with an expensive, mature player who might not want to sit on the bench, and I don't know. Again, it's short-termism in my opinion, but
I agree.
Yeah, I would look for, I don't know, the next Casemiro. But it's not up to us. What also isn't up to us is the lineups. Will you take heart from Liverpool not being able to field Thiago, Konate, Joel Matip, three major names who are out? Who else have we got? Who's out? We've got Darwin, of course, after his ridiculous, dumb fuckery. And, you know, I don't know. Are you taking any heart from the fact that Liverpool will be a little bit weakened?
I think because you are a little bit weakened, I think we can have a little bit of confidence, but I don't think there's too much. I don't think we're going to get beat. I was on a prediction show on the Weekly Armchair just before this, and I went with 2-2 draw. Personally, I think 2-2.
Okay.
I think best case scenario is we get a draw. I don't think we're there yet to win. I don't think I want us to beat Liverpool, and obviously I want us to get the form going, but our recent form in games like these, like bar the pre-season game, like our recent form, it just hasn't been great in the domestic matches where for me it matters most. It's just it hasn't been great, and if anything, I would take a draw just to get a start going, but I don't know. We'll see what happens on Monday. I'm a cause for concern really about where we end up and what actually happens. But I'm thinking it'll be after Liverpool. I do think we will start to see things in terms of the team improve. Obviously with Southampton, but obviously I'm not looking to Southampton. I'm looking at Liverpool, and I'm thinking on the back of it, I hope we don't get beat, but I don't think we win. I think a draw is more or less our best case scenario.
Okay, and what would the team be then? Obviously, De Gea in goal. Would it be? Do you reckon he'll go with Dallo and, as you say, Varane? I mean, I don't know. What do you think he would go with? Not what you think you would do, because I know that you might play.
I think he'll go with De Gea, Dallo, Varane, Martinez, Shaw. I think he'll go McFred in midfield. I think he might play Eriksen in the number 10 role. And then I think his front three might be Ronaldo, Sancho, Rashford, which is not what I would do, to be honest.
Okay. Well, what would you do?
I would do Tom Heaton,
Okay.
Wan-Bissaka, Varane, Martinez, Malacia. I would do. I would, at the moment, because it's the only option we've got, I would still play Fred and McTominay in midfield just for this game. I would play Eriksen in the 10 role. I'd play Martial as the striker. I'd play Sancho on the right. And I would play Garnacho as the left winger. I think Ronaldo's situation, for a good a player he is dominating the circumstances at the club right now. Rashford is in very poor form. He shouldn't be starting. Fernandes, I absolutely adore him, but he's similar circumstances in very poor form. Is dominating on the field with, he's more aggressive, arguing with the referee than he is trying to score goals. Like, for as good as I enjoy watching him play, it's a dominating factor. Luke Shaw's in very poor form. Maguire's in poor form. I dropped them both. Dallo hasn't done enough, and obviously, like, De Gea is just, it doesn't look like he's willing to adapt. At least Tom Heaton's comfortable with his feet, and he does actually come out. He done that really well with Aston Villa. I think I would rather do that personally. That would be what I prefer. But I think he's going to go with tried and trusted to show them up. I think he's putting the tried and trusted there just to show them up, in the sense that, like, if you don't do against Liverpool, well, I've already got one player coming in who will go straight into my midfield. We're already looking at wingers who will go straight into the team. I think he's basically saying, if you don't step up, there are players that are coming in that will show you up for who you are.
I think it's a dangerous road to go down, though. David Moyes tried it back in the day. Saying
Very true.
publicly, you're playing for your careers, and he was out the door way way before a lot of
True.
his players were. I think, yeah, it could be a dangerous way. I mean, I think with Jurgen Klopp when he took over. I mean, his first lineup, his first squad. I mean, he had players like Nathaniel Klein are pretty good, but whenever he was asked about any of his players, always positive, always, yeah, he's a great player. There's a wonderful player there. If he can show
Yeah.
his talent on the field, and consequently the players responded to that, and with the positivity, and I just think if Ten Hag starts being a bit negative and saying, well, basically, yeah, you're playing for your United career, it just leads to, like, people feeling
Yeah.
like under even more pressure than they
I
I
think
would.
I think the way he's handled it in press conferences, though, in his post matches, is he has been fair to the players, but he has criticised, like, where they've went wrong, and he's trying to find ways where they can improve. Like, he hasn't evaded the goalkeeper situation. He hasn't evaded, like, the mark. He got asked stupidly by Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher, which you'll see on Monday night on the interview. He was asked about Martinez's height, which is ridiculous. Like, you shouldn't be asking about a player about his height when, if anything, Martinez wasn't at fault for the goal that Ben Mee scored either. Like, if anything, it was De Gea's position. Obviously, Maguire should have been covering Ben Mee. Martinez should have been ready to receive the ball and go. Like, it's little nitpicks like that where, like, he will defend his team, but also he will stick to who he is, and that is, if you aren't playing the way he wants, he will criticise in that manner, but he will he will defend these players as well. So like I do get your point. What I don't want to see is I don't want to see players taking advantage of complacency, which they have done for so long, where they think they're going to get in the team regardless. I don't think any player's position is safe. I think if I was McTominay and Fred, um, I'd be very concerned about my position. Like obviously with Casemiro coming in, if I was Bruno Fernandes with Eriksen, who's a fantastic midfield player, I'd be very concerned about my position. And if Anthony and Gakpo or either come in, if I was Rashford and Sancho, I'd also be concerned about my position because he knows them both really well. Playing with them, playing against them, they go into his team. Like that's the one thing that matters to me is players need to step up. Also realise complacency it should never be allowed at a football club.
It's a really good answer. Thank you so much, Reese. And Leicester Till I Die TV is in the chat. Great to have you with us. He says, "Big up, panel. This game could be interesting." Well, I hope from a neutral's point of view, from a Leicester point of view. I mean, it should be madness for everyone. I would say, and well worth a watch. And great to have Alan in the chat as well. He says Ten Hag needs to have the balls to drop Maguire. I think in some ways it's a lot easier for him to drop Maguire than Solskjaer because he wasn't the one who paid the ridiculous fee for Maguire.
I agree.
You know, I would say he needs to do that sooner rather than later to show that he doesn't care about the price tag and he just cares about form, right? So I mean,
yeah, there are rumours that he is actually going to drop Maguire for Monday. Like there are like strong reports coming from the club that Maguire is one of them.
He should, but then I don't have that much love
He's a great
for
carrier of the ball.
Varane. Sorry?
Yeah, like Maguire's a very good carrier of the ball. I won't deny that, but
Yeah.
my biggest fear of him is his pace, and he gets caught out in very simple positions. Like it's something that shouldn't happen for supposed to be a top defender. Like he's billed as one of the top defenders for England, but that's because he's got players protect him in a back three.
Yes.
Like in a back four, he's abject, and he is exposed by pace, and it's clear as day.
Yeah, and it's not just pace. I mean, he makes sort of rookie mistakes sometimes.
He does.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, but he's playing with all the pressure, like the whole weight of the world on his shoulders, But you know, if Varane coming in for him, I mean, I don't watch all the United games. I probably watch more. Sorry, but just to see if you lose, you're probably
Naturally.
Same
with me, obviously.
Yeah.
Same with me, obviously. I hope you lose. I just look at the Sky Sports app.
And and you know, if you're losing, then I'll tune into a United game. Right, if I think you will lose, like against Brentford, I thought you would, and so I watch it from the start. So, I've seen maybe, I don't know, 10 or 15 United matches in the last year, let's say, for example. And whenever I've seen Varane, he looks like a player who's past his best. You mentioned pace. He's quicker than Maguire a bit, but he's not that quick either. I don't know. What can you see it as a big upgrade? Like what does he bring to the team that Maguire doesn't have?
I think the one thing that he does bring better than Maguire, obviously, apart from pace, is when he does come forward off the ball, he is actually, I think he is better at reading the game than Maguire is. I think he is better at tracking a defender's run, positioning wise, so he can organise his fullback. I think he's got better communication with his fullback rather than Maguire. I think if Maguire's on the left, he's got better communication with Shaw. But then again, Shaw isn't particularly good a player either. So like, I think one thing we do need is a stable back four. Having Casemiro in front when he comes in eventually, you've got a goalkeeper that's competent, like David Raya is another fantastic example from Brentford. He'd be a brilliant acquisition if United tried to sign him, but we would get priced out. Like him or Sanchez from Brighton are two good examples in the league that understand the role, that are good enough to come in. You have that. I think if Maguire had Dean Henderson in defence, he knows that Henderson would chase the ball to come out and try and clear it, and it would give Maguire confidence. But I hate the fact that people say that Maguire's not confident. Like with De Gea, I think players pick and choose who's behind them. I think regardless of that, it doesn't matter who's behind you. If De Gea's not playing, if De Gea's playing in goal, stay 10 yards back if you don't have the pace. If Henderson's playing, then stay the 15 yards forward. I think I think he deliberately picks and chooses, and then obviously the brunt goes on one player, not the other. Whereas I looked at both and I'm like, well, you're picking and choosing, and that's my thing. You don't see him doing it for England either. Like he knows he can do the 15 yards because Jordan Pickford plays like he's prime Manuel Neuer. Like he does the same circumstance. I think he deliberately picks and chooses, and obviously people jump on the bandwagon over modern goalkeeper, not modern goalkeeper, good defender, not good defender. Personally, I wouldn't have either of them in my team. I wouldn't, but it's just circumstance of the situation. But at least Varane, I think, is a better tracker of the ball than Maguire is. I think he's a much better tracker.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that's a really good answer, and it'll be very interesting to see
Hmm.
what happens. I mean, if you get a 2-2 draw, 1 point from three matches is
Still poor, yeah.
it's still poor. If Liverpool would have 3 points from three matches, it would be extremely. It would take a gargantuan effort. I would say we'd need to win the next 7 games to stay within 6 points of City. But you know, we've got it all to look forward to. We never know what's going to happen in football, and about the protests, I was just wondering, just a final question. Do you think that there's a chance the game will be called off? Do you think they'll be that big, the protests?
No, it won't
Okay.
get called off. It'll be like the protests that have been going on lately, where they will continuously protest before the game, and then the fans will go in and they will still protest within the stadium, but they will hold up banners, like get the media attention. Because obviously it happened against Brentford, the Glazers out signs were shown on TV. I don't think the game will get called off. I think that was in the circumstances. Obviously, I wanted to watch the game at the time, but obviously in the manner of speaking, like getting the game called off was a big telling because obviously the media attention skyrocketed from then. I don't think you'll ever see a game called off like that again. But what you will see is the fans will not stop. Like, doesn't matter who we sign. Like, it's great that we're strengthening our squad, but the same focus is we still want the owners out no matter what. It's never going to change. But yeah, I don't see the game getting called off. No, I don't.
Well, in that case, we shall look forward to it with varying senses of trepidation and wonder and intrigue. Thank you very much, Reese.
My pleasure.
Is there anything you would like to mention before we go that we haven't mentioned yet? In terms of what you're up to these days, or you know.
Well, for me, obviously, it's working away, doing my own YouTube stuff. I am live in a couple hours on, like I said, the weekly Armchair Sports Talk. I've got my own little podcast on there at 3 o'clock, which is good. But it's not actually talking about football. I like other sports. I'll be talking other things. But most of all, it's just like enjoying life. I'm just enjoying life a lot more.
Okay.
Like, I'm not. I'm still involved in the YouTube scene, but I'm not heavily involved on shows. Like, I'm very rarely around, but I'm still supporting in live chats. I'm still trying to help channels grow, and I like doing things that tailor made to me. It doesn't matter who you support. If you come across as a approachable person like yourself, we've got on really well for so long. It's There's always something behind the channel. If I feel it relates to me, even if it's not the team I support, it's just good, like-minded people talking about the sport I love, then I will enjoy it, and that's why we've got such a good connection. And same with Doug and all that, and it's something I enjoy. So yeah, I'm always privileged to come on a channel like this, even though I'm in enemy territory, as I've always said on your show. I'm always in enemy territory, but
No, you're
I do
welcome.
I do enjoy coming on with you. I do enjoy
It's
it. So thank you
it's
for having
so
me.
good. No, it's so good. It's always great to have your opinion. I mean, there's too much hatred in this world, and to have some people take it so seriously to have hatred about football. Come on, get a life. We can all
Exactly.
get on, and we can all laugh when each other loses, and that's okay. You'll laugh if Virgil van Dijk scores an own goal, for example. You'll
Exactly.
be
I would have.
and it helps make football better if we have rivalry between teams, and we actually can inspire each other to be better at times as well. So
I agree.
thank you very much, Reese. Have a great day, my friend, and
You too.
it's been an absolute pleasure. And thanks to everyone watching. I think the sound has worked for once this time on the brand new Cop On YouTube channel. Do check it out, everybody, because it took me ages and I'm knackered from staying up till 3 a.m. trying to put it all together.
Give this guy a subscribe. Genuine down to heart, genuine down to earth guy. Give him a subscribe, honestly.
Well, thank you so much. So take care. Speak to you soon. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
Bye bye.